G'day, this video is about evolution and how it's not a scientific theory. I'll be putting forward the idea that adaptation is a scientific theory and that evolution is a different theory. We might get to looking at this article, which I believe is designed to hypnotize people into believing in evolution. That might be a separate video, but we'll go through this PDF first. So I've got written here the theory of adaptation. Variation within a species occurs due to natural selection over time. I don't know if everyone would agree that that is the best wording for it, but I don't think it's that it says anything that evolutionists would not agree with. So an example, of course, is Darwin's finches. So a theory of adaptation is an explanation for what is observed. So it's a scientific theory is different to something that is just a theory. And part of what I wanted to say was that, see, evolutionists use terms like this. They say the word theory in the context of science does not imply uncertainty. See, that's not true. In science, you can have a theory that does imply uncertainty. But see, the term scientific theory does not imply uncertainty. So there's two things going on here. You've got a scientific theory, and then you've got the word theory being used in science. They're not the same thing. There's a scientific theory, then there's a theory in science. But they don't like to separate the two, because when they do separate the two, it's revealed that evolution is just a theory. It's not necessarily a scientific theory. Adaptation, however, is a scientific theory. Theory of evolution, it's a theory that adaptation has caused rocks to evolve into people, essentially, or the theory that adaptation has caused non-living matter to become living matter and to eventually result in the existence of people. Adaptation is supported by observations. It is a scientific theory. Evolution is a theory about adaptation's potential. I'm putting forward here that it is just a theory about a scientific theory. Adaptation being the scientific theory that it is a theory about. People say in science the term theory is the highest status that can be ascribed to an idea. I'm not sure if that's proper use of the word ascribed there. I would say that that is a play on words. There is a big difference between a theory within science and a scientific theory, and of course we already went through that. Evolution is a theory within science, and adaptation is a scientific theory. So what's happening here is evolution is more or less just supported by a lot of media organisations. If the billionaires did not want to push evolution, then they wouldn't support any pro-evolution programming. But it seems obvious that there's a consensus within media, within popular media outlets, of pushing evolution. There's not a consensus among scientists, but there is a consensus among media outlets. And all of those media outlets like to say that there's a consensus among scientists. But see, what they do is they say that anyone that doesn't believe in evolution is not a real scientist. But you see, science is not a democracy. You can have every scientist in the world believe something, and it could be proven wrong by one scientist. Okay, so look, belief of scientists is not evidence, and if that's what you reference as your evidence, then you've moved into the realm of, well, religion, really. You've created a religion, a faith, called it science, And now anything that's put forward in the name of science, you say, oh, even though it's a theory, it's a fact because it's in science. Yeah, so it's a pretty dangerous game they're playing, but it serves their pride, and that's why I wanted to go through that article, because the programmers appeal to the individual's pride, among other things. So if you are doing a scientific experiment and you have a theory about what is occurring, that is not necessarily a scientific theory. Evolution requires assumptions and conclusions about observations to be accepted. So it requires those things to be accepted by the person as fact, and for other assumptions and conclusions about certain observations to be rejected. So it's not supported necessarily by observations, it's supported by by assumptions and conclusions about observations. So it's a matter of opinion. Evolution is not supported by observations, it's supported by opinions and theories about observations. So it requires faith. Evolution is just a theory about a scientific theory, that scientific theory being adaptation, saying that adaptation has the potential to create new and more complicated species, and that this is the cause of life on this planet. Yeah, so it's just a theory. It can't be demonstrated. It's not. Look, if we had a time machine, we could investigate it using the scientific method, but to make those supposed observations of saying, oh, this fossil is this old, and to say that there were no species on the planet more complicated than that at that point in time, well, you're referencing a theory about an observation as evidence, and a lack of, well, what you've put there also depends on a lack of evidence to refute your assumption. You add the assumption that there's no other species more complicated than that on the Earth at that point in time, when you simply don't know that. You can't know that. It could be that you just haven't found them yet. And there's certainly testimony of people having found fossil records that prove evolution wrong, and they're dismissed, and they have their careers threatened, etc. And of course we could say, oh, well, that's just a conspiracy theory, they're creationists that are trying to deceive us. Well, we simply don't know. So look, you can't demonstrate it, so it's just a theory. Yeah, it's not based on demonstrations. It's not an explanation of what is demonstratable phenomena. But see, adaptation is. And if you want to say that adaptation and evolution are the same thing, then why is one able to be demonstrated and the other is not? Therefore, they cannot be the same theory. It's true that if evolution is in fact a reality, then evolution and adaptation are the same thing. But in the realm of theories, they are different theories. One is a scientific theory, the other one is just a theory about a scientific theory. So, look, for all we know, rocks do evolve into people. But the scientific method cannot be applied to investigate the idea because it is a theory about what occurred in the past. It will always require faith. Adaptation and evolution are not the same theory. Adaptation is supported by observations. Evolution is supported with opinions and theories about observations. It is a conclusion or an opinion, not a scientific theory, okay? Evolutionists try to say that adaptation and evolution are the same theory. Essentially, they are applying the name theory of evolution to two separate theories. So here's something that evolutionists say. They say evolution, but they're actually talking about adaptation, so we'll call that evolution number one. Evolution is supported by observations and it is a scientific theory. Therefore, everyone that does not accept evolution is an idiot. But see, they're using the second theory there. The second time they say evolution, they mean the theory that adaptation causes rocks to evolve into people. Now that's not a scientific theory. That's a theory about adaptation. So it's pretty basic and a little bit shameful to be deceived in such a basic manner. But they hold themselves as being intellectually superior, and that's their problem. Pride makes people stupid. They've been told that they're smart, and now they think their opinions are fact. So they've lost their ability to be objective. Then they imply that they are intellectually superior to people that do not believe as they do. Evolutionists imply that faith is evidence. They certainly don't say that, but they imply it. They say that a scientific consensus is reason to accept an idea. Now look, if you've got some data that says, oh, this many scientists believe, so you're wrong about there not being a scientific consensus. Most scientists do believe. Well, I don't even care. Why would I care about what most people believe? What I care about is whether it can be investigated using the scientific method. And if they're putting forward a belief about something that can't be investigated, what relevance could it possibly have to me? Unless, of course, I'm willing to put faith in them. And I'm not. But yeah, so look, as you'll see with that article, if we do get to it, they encourage you to put faith in them. And they say that it's shameful to not put faith in them. In doing so, they prove that they have no evidence. So in referencing the faith of most scientists, they prove that they have no evidence. If you reference the belief of others as reason to believe, you obviously have no evidence. The things they put forward as evidence require faith in scientists, faith in media, and a rejection of other scientists and other media. So look, it's just, excuse me, it's just a big game of who you should put faith in. And they're saying, we're the smart ones, come over here and be part of the team. And they say that you should be ashamed for not being on their, in their little club. There is no reason whatsoever to believe that the idea that rocks evolve into people is any more than just a theory. None at all. It cannot be investigated without a time machine, but they believe in it because the media tells them that all the smart people believe. Their desire for pride rather than truth makes them vulnerable to deception. And look, this is not unique to evolution. This is used all throughout religion as well. I'm not saying that religion is outside of this method of deception. This method of deception is used within religion, but that does not mean that all beliefs within any given religion are false. All you need to tell them is that all the smart people believe, and they will believe. And sadly, this is true in a lot of topics and religion especially. But instead of just it being smart people, it's also moral people. They say all the moral people except Islam. But of course, Islam promotes. Well, it says that killing non-believers it pleases their God. So yeah, it also helps to tell them that all the moral people believe too. And it also helps to claim that all those who do not believe are stupid and immoral, who lack education. So that's how they sell it to you. They say, if you come over here, you're smart and moral, but if you don't come, you're stupid and immoral. And the reason they don't all the reason all those creationists don't come over is because they're all brainwashed and they lack education. Well, the thing is, all lies and error, well, not all of it, but a lot of it is caused by education. Look, education is not the solution to every problem. There is such a thing as too much education or bad education. So look, you've got to be very careful in anything you're studying. Both deception and education come through education. Well, what I meant there, I guess, was both education and enlightenment come through education. Evolutionists have generally had too much education and not enough thought. Look, I guess it's taking a bit of a tone here that's a bit nasty. It's not my intention to insult anyone, but look, you really need to take the hard line against your own mind and just be critical towards what you've accepted at all times, whether religious or, well, I'd say the evolutionists are treating science like a religion. So the conclusion is rocks might evolve into people, but this cannot be investigated using science. Anyone who suggests it has been investigated using science does not know what is and what is not science, and they have been deceived through their willingness to take on pride for a belief. So they've said you can be proud of this belief, and that was enough to get them over to it. Many religious people are manipulated in the same way. They believe any doctrine which exalts them above others. Now again, that does not mean that all beliefs found in religions are false. So just over to this article now. We'll see if we can find any evidence of appealing to the reader's pride. Okay, so it starts down here. It's creationism and logical fallacy. What's a bit disturbing is, so they'll say the claim by the creationist, a lot of the time it's not entirely accurate. They actually use these fallacies against the reader. They tell the person the fallacies that they're using against the reader, but I won't try and identify them too much. We'll just try and find appeals to the individual's pride, and most of them are at the end of the article, but we'll just rip through it quickly. So the claim that this evolutionist, I don't know if this person's even an evolutionist. They might just be part of a club that's looking to destroy the Christian presence in Western civilization. There are a number of groups that are active in that. I know Freemasons, when you get high up there, Antichrist, and of course the Illuminati are an organisation that aren't even secretive anymore, and they're openly against Christian values, and they want to remove Christianity from society because it's a hindrance to their God's agenda. They don't even know what they're involved in. They're involved in they're in allegiance with Lucifer. They're Luciferians. But anyway, so the evolutionists' response to this is to say that the word theory in the context of science does not imply uncertainty, but of course that's untrue. The word theory implies uncertainty wherever it is used, except in the term scientific theory. But not all theories in the context of science are scientific theories. It means a coherent group of general propositions used as principles of explanation for a class phenomena. In this case, the theory of evolution. In the case of the theory of evolution, the following are some of the phenomena involved. All are facts. Okay, so we'll check this list and see if they are facts. But see, back here, they've taken this quote and indicated that this man has applied that definition for the word theory in the context of science. He would not have done that. He would have said that a scientific theory is defined in this way, not that any theory in the context of science. So That's one of the key things that the deceiver, who I would of course say is the devil, I'd say that the theory of evolution and all the beliefs and everything in it, it's all caused by demonic activity. You can see people, they kind of become like they're demon possessed defending it, and just with all their logical fallacies, and you'll see that this article is just riddled with error. And if the devil is in fact the author of all lies, well, he's the author of this article here. So it says all of these things are facts. Let's see if these things are fact. Life appeared on Earth more than 2 billion years ago. How could any living human being possibly know that to be a fact? That requires faith. So they're just declaring these things, saying, you will believe this. Life forms have changed and diversified over life's history. That also requires faith. Life forms have changed. See, I guess what they're trying to get at is they want to imply that they've become more complicated. We can observe diversification due to adaptation, but not necessarily over life's history. We can only do that within our own life. So look, that's two out of these two are not facts. Species are related via common descent from one or more common ancestors. That's not a fact, that's an opinion. Natural selection is a significant factor affecting how species change. Well, species don't change. Populations of a species change, but there's no evidence that a species changes in a way that it won't change back. There's no evidence of any kind of irreversible changes. They can always, if the environment changes back to what it was, the chances are the species will change back to what it was. So to say that a species changes, that's a theoretical concept. And to say that that is caused by natural selection, or that it's a significant factor. See, now they're using terms that are a matter of opinion. It's a matter of opinion as to whether anything is significant. So they're just being vague, and they're saying these are facts. Look, so they have no, they've made no effort to be specific and to be objective. Like, it's brainwashing 101. So in case you forgot that they were claiming these things were facts, they tell you again afterwards. Many other facts are explained by the theory of evolution as well. So 2 billion years ago. Look, and by the way, I don't necessarily disagree with all of these. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. My position is you can't know. Therefore, it's not a scientific theory. It's just a theory. Now, I don't have a problem with the idea that rocks evolve into people. I'm just saying that it's not a scientific theory. So number 2 here, the theory of evolution has proved itself in practice. The theory of adaptation has proved itself in practice. It has useful applications in epidemiology, pest control, drug discovery, and other areas. Besides the theory, there is the fact of evolution, the observation that life has changed greatly over time. Yeah, again, that's not an observation, that's a conclusion based on observations. They look at fossils and disregard other fossils, come to a conclusion, then call their conclusion an observation. The fact of evolution was recognized even before Darwin's theory. The theory of evolution explains the fact. there is no fact of evolution.